My wife's twin sister assaulted me, and I didn't realize it until she told me she's pregnant. Now I'm stuck in a nightmare, unsure how to move forward or how to tell my wife. Part 1. I am absolutely losing my shit here, people. This is so fucked up. My Lyndon M24 wife, Bridget F23, has an identical twin sister, Sandra F23. They have always been weirdly close. I just thought it was a twin thing. I had a couple friends that were twins and they were really close. I just figured it was even more standard for them to be even closer when they were identical twins. To give a little background, I met my wife 2 years ago. I work as a bartender at a place my uncle owns. She came in one night and we just hit it off from the word go. She actually asked me out. The romance was a real whirlwind and we got married after just 8 months. Didn't even have a real wedding, just courthouse. She moved in with me because I have a 2-bedroom house I was renting from a different uncle and she was still living at home with her parents. I met her sister right away, and we have always gotten along. The only thing that I ever found weird was how alike Bridget and Sandra were. Honestly, the only difference between them is Bridget is a little more thoughtful with what she says, and Sandra is a little more sassy and crude. Otherwise, they are like the same person. They look exactly alike obviously, but they actively maintain that. They go to the same hairstylist, and get the exact same cut and color on the exact same day. They have been doing this their whole lives. They work out at the gym together, they shop together, they do just about everything together, they like all the same things. We go out to eat together and if it's a familiar place they order different dishes then split them between each other. They have the same taste in movies, music, and all sorts of things. They even have the same taste in men. Sandra was in a year-long relationship that has since ended. I met the guy a few times before they broke up and it was odd. The dude could literally have been my brother. I even noticed we had the same sense of humor. I liked the guy, but I didn't mind when Sandra and him called it quits because it felt kinda creepy. Anyway, this is where things get fucked up. About a month ago we had a small house party over at our place. Just friends, obviously Sandra was there. I had a little bit much to drink that night and was pretty tipsy. Bridget was too. As the night was winding down, the booze really caught up with me and I told Bridget I was going to lay down. She told me Sandra was going to stay over. This was not unusual. She had stayed over plenty of times. I actually expected it because any time they drank they would stay at each other's place. What was surprising was that they were going to watch a movie together. I knew they both had plenty to drink and figured they would just both pass out as like I was. I had just laid down when Bridget came in. She didn't turn on any lights or anything, she got into bed with me. I said, "Changed your mind on the movie?" She just said, "Yeah." Then climbed into bed. I noticed she had stripped all the way down, and that got me excited. I rolled into her and she just started stroking me. I went along with it and we had sex. Afterwards I fell asleep pretty quickly. I woke up around 5 because I had to use the bathroom. When I came back to bed she initiated sex with me again, which was odd, but I wasn't complaining. I should note we don't use condoms because Bridget is on the pill. I also don't usually finish in her, usually just when we know the likelihood of pregnancy is low. On this night she was insistent I did so both times. I passed out again after the second romp, and woke up around 10 mildly hungover but not too bad. I wasn't wasted after all. Bridget was already up and Sandra had gone home before I got up. We had a pretty normal day. Bridget came on to me again later that next day, and pretty much every day for the next week. We have a fairly healthy sex life and doing it several days in a row isn't that odd. The 3 times in what was essentially one day was, but I just figured she was feeling extra sexy. This leads me to what happened earlier today. Sandra called me and asked if I could come over and help her with something. Her and one of their good friends from high school just got an apartment together. She told me she needed a few shelves hung, but when I got there she told me she lied about that. Sandra then pulls out a pregnancy test and hands it to me. It's positive. I shake my head a little bit and say, "Congrats, I don't know what to say. Have you told Bridget because she didn't say anything to me?" I thought it was strange that she lied to get me over to show me this. I assumed she was wanting to surprise tell Bridget and wanted my help. She said, "No, I haven't told her yet. I needed to tell you first." I looked at her and said, "Why would you need to tell me first?" She looked at me with big eyes and said, "Because you're the father, from the 2 times at the party." My chest started pounding. I stared at her for a long minute and said, "What? What the fuck are you talking about?" She looked at me and said, "What do you mean? You had sex with me twice at that party. Don't play dumb now." I exploded. "I thought that was Bridget. Why the fuck would you do this?" She got defensive and said, "You were flirting and giving me the eyes all night. We were going to watch a movie, but Bridget passed out right away." I wasn't tired, so I thought I'd ask you if you wanted to watch. When I came in you weren't wearing a shirt, and I don't know, I just got turned on. I was drunk. You didn't seem to mind. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was not flirting with you. What the fuck possibly made you think that? She said, I don't know, just seemed like you were. And then I got in bed with you and you had your dick in me in less than 2 minutes, then fucked me again in the morning. Seemed like you wanted me. I felt like I was going to hyperventilate. I just said, I'm out of here, I want a paternity test, I don't believe you, and I'm telling Bridget what you did. You have fucked up everything. At that point I stormed out of her apartment and headed straight home. I came into our house pretty upset and was about to spill it all to Bridget. She was way too excited though, and it gave me just a moment's pause. She said she had something super exciting to tell me. I kind of froze. I didn't want to ruin her big news, and didn't really want to tell her what just happened. I knew I had to, and would, but I welcomed at least the slight delay in the inevitable. I said, go ahead babe, what's up? She sat me down on the couch, and looked at me with these big bright radiant eyes. Then she handed me a positive pregnancy test and said, you're going to be a daddy. I totally chickened out of telling her about Sandra, and did my best to feign excitement. I am excited about this, but I can't with Sandra. She has lost her mind. I'm going to tell Bridget everything tomorrow. I just want her to have this day. After that I don't know what I'm going to do. Part 2. The past 2 days have been incredibly hard. Yesterday I told Bridget what Sandra did to me. She seemed upset, but not to the degree I would have thought. She immediately called Sandra. I was trying to be supportive and followed her, but she told me to give her space. She went into our bedroom and locked the door. After about 40 minutes she came out and told me she forgave me. Forgave me? I stood there dumbfounded by that. What do you mean you forgive me? She tricked me into sleeping with her by pretending to be you. She basically raped me. Bridget got this disgusted look on her face and said, I can't believe you would use that word, you were not raped. Sandra told me what happened. I remember you flirting with her most of the night, so I can't say this is totally her fault. You were there too. I was absolutely livid at this point. I was not flirting with her. I feel like I'm going insane. What is wrong with you? How can you be okay with her doing this? Bridget responded, I'm a little hurt, but she has apologized to me. She's my sister. It's a little bit my fault. I may have shared too much during girl talk. She was worked up and apparently you were too. I'd just like to forgive you both and move on. I don't think harping on this is good for my health or my sister's. You are about to be a father for both of us and we're going to need you to be there. I told her, I am not the father of Sandra's child. This is asinine. I can't believe you are taking her side. I will never be that kid's parent. She took advantage of me, and now you want me to just put it in the past. Forgive and forget. I can't do that. I will not let this go. She escalated and we got into a huge fight until she told me she felt weak and needed a break. She said I was going to cause her to miscarry. We spent the rest of the day not speaking to each other. This morning I woke up and the whole thing has been weighing on me heavily. I'm not okay with being used like this. I despise cheaters, and my wife's attitude that this is somehow my fault has me considering divorce. I decided to file a police report and press charges this morning. That was just as frustrating as everything else. As I told the officer what occurred, I could tell he was not taking me seriously. He even made some comments that implied that I was not assaulted, that I should be thankful, and that this will never stick. He told me another officer would be in touch shortly to follow up. When I got back home Sandra was over and the two of them tried to ambush me. They kept telling me that we all needed to talk this out and come up with a plan for the babies. I just shook my head, turned around and went back out the door. I can't believe Bridget would be okay having her over at all. I went to my uncle's bar and grill. I've been hanging out here for the past couple hours, my shift starts soon. I am really hoping they don't try to come talk to me here at work. I think all this has been enough for me, and I need to figure out how to separate from Bridget. I can't believe all this is happening. Part 3. I used my meager savings to stay at a motel for 2 days. My wife was constantly trying to contact me during that time. She was leaving a lot of voicemails, and sending a lot of texts. They were mostly her just trying to get me to reach out. She kept saying she was worried about me and wanted me to come home. The only thing I sent back was me asking that she not come to my work. I told her I needed time and this whole situation is really messed up. On the morning of the 3rd day I got a call back from a detective. They had followed up with Sandra, and with my wife Bridget. The detective told me they would not pursue any charges in the case. He told me that both Sandra and Bridget made statements to the effect that this was planned, consensual, and that I must just be freaking out, because they were both pregnant at the same time. He tried to be a little sympathetic to me, and said, If nothing else, you can at least divorce and move on. Their story sounds a little too perfect and matched way too closely. But this is just a he said she said situation, and unfortunately there's more of them saying their side of things. I finally had it and went home. I needed to know why my wife would side with her sister and lie to the police. When I got there, Sandra was there too. I'm not proud to say I immediately snapped, "What the fuck is wrong with you two? You're lying to the police? You both know what happened that night." My wife started trying to calm me right away. Babe, stop, just come sit." I was not calming at all. "No, I want her gone, and I want her gone now," Bridget said. "She's not going anywhere. This is what we wanted." I just stopped. I stood there. I felt unable to move. I had this long pause of processing and finally replied, "You wanted this to happen. Why would you want this?" Bridget led me over to the couch. I hadn't noticed, but Sandra ducked out of the room. Bridget took my hand and looked me in the eye. "We have always wanted to have children at the same time, that were the same age. We've been talking about this for the last few months. The party just gave us the chance to make it happen." I said, "You set me up, you are just as bad as her." Bridget: "I love my sister. We do everything together. Having me means having her and vice versa. That will never change. I love you, but you will always come after her." Just exasperated, I said, "That's fine. You can have each other. I want a divorce." Sandra returned at that point. "Don't be like that." I looked up at her with disdain. "You can shut the fuck up," I said scornfully. Bridget: "No, listen, we want to make this work." "There is no we," I yelled. Bridget lost her cool at this point. "Just stop. You're pissed off. You are going to be more pissed off paying double child support. Fuck this, and fuck you both. I am out of here." I stormed out of the house at that point and just drove off. I went straight to a divorce attorney. That consultation was eye-opening. I explained all the circumstances of my situation. When I was done, he looked at me and said, "I don't think you come out ahead on this one. There ain't much to your divorce, you guys don't have any assets. I can probably do this divorce for about $3,500, if it goes smooth. It's the after that's the problem. From the sound of things, these two will spin anything their way. If everything you said is true, they got you. You're going to be looking at child support for both kids. Even if we can test this all the way to a hearing, I don't see a judge siding with you. Those police statements are not helping you." I left that office feeling defeated. I needed a lot of money, and probably a better attorney than the one I just talked to. I decided to talk to my uncles and see if they could help me. I've met with both of them over the past few days. Neither of them was any more reassuring. They both just made jokes about ménage à trois and told me I should suck it up. When I said to one of them that Sandra sexually assaulted me, he said, "What are you, a gay? Don't be such a pussy. Every man I know would love to be able to say they fucked twins." Having exhausted every avenue, my last-ditch effort was to call my dad. I was hoping that just one more time in my life he would act like a dad. I hadn't gotten that from him since my mom died 10 years ago, but I was hoping just this once he would. I was again disappointed. With my head down, I went back to my house. Bridget and Sandra were both there. I told them I would listen. The conversation was just them tag-teaming me with their grand plan. The main piece being that we move Sandra into our house. It's a 2-bedroom house. That's 3 adults with 2 newborns on the way. They kept saying this was just temporary, that with 3 incomes we would be able to get a new bigger place soon. Then they tried to lay out all these benefits for me. 3 parents means more time for ourselves, having all of my kids under the same roof, no child support, no custody nonsense, just a loving home. This devolved as they spat their sales pitch to the point they were just planning decorating for the house, and what types of baby supplies we would need. I have been staying in the house at this point with Bridget. Sandra is still at her place for now. I know they've got me in a tight spot. I need to make a decision. I keep wavering between just filing for divorce and taking the bullshit that comes with it, or trying to ride this out a bit farther until I have enough saved to make a better break. I know I'm getting away from these two. They will be the death of me. It's just about how quick I can do this. I may just have to endure for a little while. I think I can handle that, maybe even wear them down some and get a better deal for myself. Part 4. Years ago, my Lyndon 30 million wife, Bridget 29F, and her identical twin sister, Sandra 29F, set me up. They had the most extreme twin bond you can imagine. They tricked me into impregnating them both at the same time. I was extremely upset and felt violated. Everyone else told either laughed at me, downplayed it, or told me to man up. I went to the police, they couldn't help. I wanted to divorce my wife, and the lawyer explained how financially fucked I would be. Bridget and Sandra ended up getting what they wanted. Sandra moved into the house Bridget and I rented. During their pregnancies, things had at least a sense of normalcy. Sandra had her own room, and Bridget and I shared the other. I knew we needed a bigger place, and that once the babies were born this wouldn't work out at all. I hated being around Sandra, but Bridget always insisted on her joining us for everything. Eventually I just gave in to this being the norm. We got two of everything and began setting up Sandra's room as a nursery. The sisters just kept telling me that one of them would sleep in there each night to be close to the babies, which were both confirmed to be boys. We got to the 38th week's mark, and they both scheduled C-sections for the same day. They were adamant that the boys be born on the same day. The boys, Trevor, Bridget's, and Terrence, Sandra's, were born a few hours apart. I am ashamed of this, but I really didn't want to acknowledge Sandra's child. Once I saw him, I couldn't help but fall in love with my son. The two babies look so much alike. A doctor did explain that genetically speaking they are full siblings since their mothers are identical twins and they have the same father. Mom spent 2 days recovering after the birth in the hospital. Their mother, Robin 54F, who used to be so sweet to me, now acts like I am some monster who has taken advantage of both her daughters. She was there the whole time, and kept making snide comments that I mostly ignored. Their dad, Carrie 56 million, however, has kind of become a kindred spirit over the past few years. That all began in the hospital during the births. I guess I never noticed how broken he was. Robin just never lets up on him, and you can tell he's miserable. The girls are pretty hard on him too, not as bad as Robin but still hard on him. I get it now. He's been doing this for like 30 years. I am starting to feel like he looks, and I've only been doing it a fifth of that time. Once we got home, the mood turned hard. They both seemed to have a lot of needs and were asking me for help constantly. I was trying to be supportive to both of them, even though I still harbored a lot of anger towards Sandra. I wanted to make things work for a while because I wanted the boys attached to me. This kind of backfired on me though, because I didn't pick up on the signs. The twins were grooming me for the life I've been living. It began small, with the sleeping arrangement. I quickly got relegated to couch sleeping. The boys would be in bed with both Sandra and Bridget often. The other thing that would happen is one of them would sleep in the boys' room, while the other proclaimed they needed a break, and would sleep alone in the master bedroom. Our arrangement became me staying at home with Trevor and Terrence during the day while the twins were at work. Then I worked nights at my uncle's bar. With 3 incomes, the financial side of raising 2 newborns was easier. While this was physically draining, I was okay with it because it gave me a lot of one-on-two time with my sons. My marriage to Bridget did not recover. While she was still making some effort to play husband and wife, it was very self-serving. She had her sister at home with her, so she leaned on her emotionally. We would still cuddle and have sex, but that was on her terms only. I endured it. It got weird about a year post-birth. One night I was asked if I would get Sandra off. The girls had been talking and Sandra had revealed that she hadn't had much time to date and was getting a bit frustrated. I was against it at first, but they managed to convince me. It was pretty easy. I hadn't had Bridget in 3 weeks when they asked. Everything was fine, but once she got hers, she just stopped. The next day they told me that they thought it best that I not finish, because it would make it weird. As if it wasn't already fucking batshit crazy. 2 years went like this. I was relegated to butler/living sex toy/daycare. They weren't mean, they were manipulative. I didn't even realize it at the time. I would get used and used until I became really depressed, then Bridget would pick up the sex frequency and Sandra would start finishing me off. The affection would also pick up. I'd get compliments, they'd come home with a gift or something for me. Take the kids out for a whole day and tell me to enjoy the game. I only agreed to not divorce and run because I was trying to save myself financially and have a shot at custody of Trevor. I had completely lost myself in this process, and didn't even notice that I was becoming a shell of my former self. Then it took another wild swing. Both Bridget and Sandra moved up to manager positions at work. The raises were good, and they decided we finally needed a bigger place. We found a 4-bedroom house to rent. It was spectacular having my own bed, and designated play space for the kids' things. For the first time in 2 years we weren't living in clutter. It was at this time they became overly nice to me. I thought it was because we had more space and that made things less stressful. I had one of them taking me to bed seemingly every night. That lasted a few weeks. Then they told me they were both pregnant again and things immediately went back to normal. You would think that would snap me out of my fog, but it didn't. I went along with all of it even longer. I was back to being the live-in nanny and butler. I thought everything would be okay. I had the boys and soon would have 2 more kids. Bridget and Sandra made a special appointment at the 12-week mark to determine the sex of the baby. This is almost as early as this can be done with ultrasound. I thought it was premature and also asked if we could be surprised. They let me know that was completely out of the question. The day of the ultrasound I was not included. When they got back it was just minutes before my shift and I was trying to get info out of them. They just ignored me and said they didn't want to talk about it. I had to go to work and wonder, knowing everyone would be asleep when I got home. I got home at my usual time of about 1:30 a.m. No one was still up, but they had left an envelope on the table. I opened it up and it showed that Bridget was carrying a little girl and Sandra another little boy. I was excited. I always hoped to have both boys and girls. The next day I was watching the boys, and decided to take them out to lunch in the afternoon. When we returned, Bridget and Sandra were both home. This was highly unusual. They seemed to be having a lot of discomfort. I asked them if they were okay, and Sandra said, "We're fine, just supposed to take a day and recover." I responded, "Recover from what?" Bridget began. "Look, I don't want you to get all upset, so can you just not? We had to abort." With a quivering voice I said, "What?" Sandra said, "They weren't the same sex, they couldn't be identical twins." Bridget finished, "We will try again next month. Now please, don't make a big deal, we're both really uncomfortable." My heart fell out of me. I could not believe they would do this. I wanted to scream, no, I wanted to beat them senseless. I instead went into my room. I let the emotion, and I felt the fog lift. It was weird, it felt like a literal fog had been removed from inside my head and in front of my eyes. I for the first time in years was seeing clearly. The way I was treated, used, manipulated. The way I didn't matter to them. I vowed that day to get vengeance for what they had done. It's taken years of work and planning, but I finally pulled it off. I'm finally rid of them, and serve those bitches a big dose of karma. Part 5. After Bridget and Sandra terminated their pregnancies because they weren't the same sex, I decided I had reached my limit. No amount of financial burden was too much for them to receive some form of retribution. In the days that followed I did confront them about this and they stuck to the idea that it wasn't a big deal, and that we could all just try again next month. I secretly scheduled a vasectomy consultation for the following week. My appointment was 9 days later. I hired an Uber driver to bring me home. When the twins asked me what was wrong, I told them I pulled something working out. That was step 1, now they couldn't hurt me again. Step 2 was to turn on super dad mode. Bridget and Sandra both got raises when they became managers. These were pretty good size raises, which mostly went towards the new rental. This whole time I had been working Tuesday to Saturday nights at my uncle's bar. They always complained that they didn't get to go out anymore. Which wasn't true, they did, just not together as much, or hardly ever really. One would stay home with the kids while the other went out. I proposed that I switch to part-time. Only working Friday and Saturday nights. Then I could stay at home with the kids more and they could go out together some. Thursdays are ladies' nights at a lot of local places. They liked the sound of it, and when I showed them we could afford it, especially since I was keeping the 2 nights that brought in 75% of my income, they agreed. Now I was really the primary caregiver to both kids. Spending every day and 5 nights a week directly raising Trevor and Terrence. The twins took the newfound freedom and ran with it. I kept a log of all their nights out, including receipts and bank statements. I let this roll for a whole year. About 6 months into this they decided it was time to try and get pregnant. Obviously it never worked. They didn't know I was shooting blanks now. I knew eventually they would grow frustrated. It took 6 months for them to just really snap at me. I knew it was time. My last act of vengeance was to drive them apart. While Sandra was allowed to use me for sex, we never had an affectionate relationship. Bridget did still make some effort at actual intimacy. It was one-sided, but she did like to be cuddled and still talk to me about her life. I knew if that dynamic changed she would come unglued. I began to ignore Bridget, while simultaneously focusing my attention on Sandra. Sandra was definitely not receptive initially, but I persisted. No matter what she did, I made a big deal out of it. If she brought dinner home, I made it seem like it was exactly what I needed and she was the most generous of women. If Bridget did the same thing, I didn't praise anything, and usually made up at least one complaint. I absolutely refused to tend to any of Bridget's needs. No more cuddling, no more listening to her talk. If Sandra needed something, no matter how frivolous, I jumped to it. Over the months I could see it all taking a toll on Bridget. At the same time, with all the undivided attention, Sandra began to soften to me. Bridget took notice and I began to see the tension between them grow. That led to maybe the most fucked up thing I pulled. I got a Viagra prescription. It wasn't hard, I just lied to my doctor about having trouble. I had lost all feelings for Bridget, and she really kind of disgusted me. They both did. But the plan was more important than my tastes. It wasn't difficult to start having trouble in the sex department with Bridget. No matter what she tried to get me going, I would just think about all the pain she had caused. From her perspective, she just couldn't get me aroused anymore. To pour salt into the wounds, whenever Sandra needed that itch scratched, I would pop a Viagra and be absolutely maxed out since I didn't actually need it. Their relationship strained more and more as I played favorites with Sandra. I began to see them argue, which never happened before. When Bridget changed her hair color to not match Sandra's, I knew I had won. With all the praise Sandra was getting at home, she was staying in more often. Bridget meanwhile was going out more often. I figured it was only a matter of time before she began to cheat. I tried to keep a close eye on how she was acting, looking for all the cliché signs. Eventually she started working late and spending huge amounts of time on her phone, which she hid otherwise. Then I dropped the bomb on her. I asked for divorce, but that we keep our current situation. I said, I think it best if we divorce. I love you but I'm not in love with you. I'd think it best if we kept everything the same, but I was married to Sandra instead. She lost her fucking mind. She was screaming and yelling at me non-stop. Eventually Sandra came in to see what was going on. Bridget turned her attention towards her sister immediately. I had never seen either of them like this. Sandra looked completely bewildered, because while she enjoyed my attention, it was largely on a subconscious level. I played it up, stating I only loved Sandra. Sandra looked at me like WTF. Before she could say anything though, Bridget clocked her right in the mouth, knocked out a tooth, and sent blood spatter flying across the room. Sandra, enraged, lunged back at her. It was a full-on fight. I called the police at that point. They ended up taking them both to the ER, then arresting them. Bridget's nose was broken, both had bruises and cuts. It was crazy. With her phone left behind, I collected any evidence of infidelity on Bridget's phone, and any evidence of our pseudo-throuple. I didn't want Bridget coming back saying I was a cheater too. They were both bailed out by their parents the following morning. I found it hilarious that they had to stay the night in jail. That same week I filed for divorce from Bridget. We went all in on the demands. I asked for spousal support and full custody of Trevor. At the same time we filed for full custody and child support of Terrence as well. The months since have been hard, mostly just dealings with legal stuff. I did find my own place pretty quick, and landed a decent daytime job at a lumber company. Both of them fought me pretty hard, but not being a united front hurt Bridget and Sandra. In the end I was awarded primary custody and child support from both of them. I did not get spousal support from Bridget, but that's no big loss. I'm really excited for what the future holds. Still embarrassed about my past, but I have come away with a newfound sense of self. Sky's the limit from here. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.